Morning, Sophie.
Good morning.
Morning, Sophie, Erica. Morning, Wayne. Eh, Morning, Jacob. Good morning, Clem. Moon here. Huge. What's that? Yeah, they certainly did. Morning. How you doing? Sleepy. Okay. Remind me your name though. I'm sorry. Rigo. Rigo, that's right. That meeting has a Peter. Uh, hey, how's it going? Nice to see you. Good morning. Is it like old home week? Is this like reunion time? Amazing. Yeah, Sergio's here. We're having a good time today. Oh, we're listening to Mickle Creek this morning. Saw them live in concert, East San Diego in 2002. This was my first real concert where like they turned the lights off, like just this cloud of marijuana smoke, just like made it through the whole place. Like Sergio and Eric first I know. We're like having I know. No, I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Everybody, good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Let's get started. Welcome, Rigo. Glad you're here to join us. Rigo's one of our amazing instructors. I mentioned to you all last week or yesterday that like every month at the CFI meeting they give us some kind of heads up, like what's feedback from the GPEs, like what's been happening. I told you that like, one of the pieces of feedback is that people have been struggling on circling approaches. Rigo heard that like I did and took it to heart and is here to hang out with us and brush up his own skills. So what a great example of like constantly learning, constantly being students ourselves and what a great community and team this is of people to support each other. So welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here at the crack of dawn with us. The warm up is brought to you by an anonymous whiteboard drawer who put this up here, and it was up here when I came in. But what a great warm up. What are these? Oh, I should look for Sophie. Sophie, there you go. Let's see. Say it again, Moon. It looks like a localizer, right? It looks, you said localizer range. What do you mean by that?
That's where a pilot can receive localizers, frequency or signal.
Yeah, the service volume is the phrase we use. Yep, service volume, right? Cool. So up to 10 nautical miles away from the localizer, we get signal 35 degrees each side of center line. And then all the way out to 8 more nautical miles, so 18 total from the localizer, we get at 10 degrees of center line. Yeah, that's it. What's this? Somebody else. Wayne, give it a shot.
Glide slope?
Nice. That's the glide slope. So tell us about what's happening here. Somebody drew it really nice. Just like the slides.
I believe
This is Kate's stuff. Can't believe it survived all the way through CFI class, all the way to this morning. It's amazing. All right, Ian, you were there yesterday. Then tell us, what is it? Like, what is this? Why does it say 90 up top, 150 on the bottom in that weird kind of feather shape?
Saving the people. Yeah, 90, so you go below. 150.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, same. It's like sending out, right, this glide slope antenna, which she drew, standing up is basically the localizer antenna, but on its, 90 degrees turned in the air. And so it's sending out these two signals. The plane can detect how much of one versus the other. When they're equal, boom, we're right on the glide slope. If they're not equal, then our indicators deflect up and down in our flight deck to let us know what's up. Same deal here. She drew this with the localizer. It's the same concept, right? Pretty neat. One thing that I'm not sure we talked about yesterday morning, or if we didn't talk about it in great detail, let's hammer this for a second in the warm up. Look at how she drew the width of the localizer signal at the threshold. So you'll notice that she wrote that at the threshold of the runway, the localizer signal is 700 feet wide, so 350 feet to each side of center line. What that means is that when you are at the threshold, full deflection of your green needle, full deflection of your CDI means you're 350 feet off of center line. I think that's an important concept. We're going to talk about different kinds of approaches today where that's going to be very important for us to cover. Cool stuff, right? Nice. Want to do
I got it.
Sergio, go. Yeah, please.
On the sim, and maybe this is me, but
Yeah,
I'm like dead on the needles
yeah,
on the localizer,
yeah.
and the clouds come, it's clear, right? And I'm like 300 feet off to the side.
Really? Even though you're dead on with the needle?
Yeah.
That's what happened to me yesterday.
Is that a localizer thing? Is that a sim thing? Is that me? Am I on the?
I would say that if it's dead on and you bop out of the
I
class,
should be on center line.
you should be on center line, or at least close, not 300 feet off. Maybe that's a weird sim thing. I don't know, Rigo, have you experienced that? The Sims being crazy? All right, well, you heard it here first, folks. The Sims be crazy sometimes. That is the truth. Yeah, because in real life, you should pop out of the clouds, and if you're right on glide slope and right on localizer, you can be as low as, what did we say, 200, 250 feet AGL, and boom, there's a runway and you land. Pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's do one more piece of review and hammer home one other thing, which is about the circling situation. So we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about this ILS Yankee into Burbank, right? And if you recall from yesterday, the ILS Yankee into Burbank, okay, brings us in on a final approach course of 079. See that? Into runway 8. This is the ILS Yankee runway 8 into Burbank. We were talking a lot about the circling approaches. And I just want to quickly review this and how the circling approaches go, especially because it's an area where the DPs have been giving us feedback. In this approach, if we're in a sling and we're flying the ILS Yankee into Burbank, and we want to, maybe the winds are favoring runway 15, we want to request circle to land runway 15. What are some limitations of this circling approach? You want to circle to land runway 15. You might need to have the plate open for this, the ILS Yankee runway 8.
Want to land on 5?
We want to land on 15. Winds are from the south. That's weird.
Terrain.
We can't go at certain section where they said.
Yeah, where do we find that information? We can't go in certain sections. It's not in the notams. I mean, it might be in the notams. That's what's up. There were notes in the bottom of the approach plate. So if I go back to the approach plate, see how it says that? ILS localizer Yankee. It says, see all these little notes next to the minimums in the circle of the land section? 1, 1, 1, 2. And then we find, okay, where's the one? Ah, not authorized northeast of runways 1, 5, and 26. So categories A, B, and C, you cannot circle to the northeast of runways 1, 5, and 26. Number 2, morning, Chris. Your category D, you can't do any circling east of runway 1, 5 or 3, 3 at all. So if we go back to the airport diagram here, the 10-9 in Jepson, can somebody just come up here and point to where we're not allowed to circle in a sling? Wayne, come do it for us. You're on the edge. Sorry.
You got rid of.
Oh, that's right. You've got the written today. Why am I giving you should be relaxing.
So
We're chilling with Shepherd.
3.26.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's northeast of 1526, right? So there is no circling in any of this section, right? If we're a sling. Good. So any circling restrictions, they're going to be right there on the plate for you. Jepson has your back, right? The FA charts, you got to kind of look a few places, whatever. But right in the minimum section, there's going to be that that note that says no circling. You know, if there's not circling authorized on one side or the other, it'll have that note. Let's say we're coming in on runway 8 and, you know, a little before the final approach fix, SoCal's like, you know, sling answer 5 off Zulu, contact Burbank Tower. Contact Burbank Tower, 5 off Zulu. Call up Burbank Tower. Burbank Tower, sling answer 5 off Zulu. ILS Yankee, runway 8, request circle to land, runway 15. Sling answer 5 off Zulu, Burbank Tower. Roger, circle to the west, clear to land, runway 15. Somebody come draw how that looks. Circle to the west, clear to land, runway 15.
Chris's little brother.
I know, Chris. Yeah, look, you look so young.
What are we doing? Up here?
Draw what it would look like. Yes, circle to land.
On your iPad?
Yeah, draw it on the iPad, please. Yeah.
So it'd be coming in. Ooh, this is a tough one. I don't know. Ideally, we'd be doing right traffic, right?
Cool. There you go. Right. Yep. And the only change I would make is, you know, our final approach course would be, you know, following the localizer. But otherwise,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
well.
otherwise that's it, right? It's like, okay, cool. Basically, I'm making right traffic, runway 15. We don't use the phrase right traffic, left traffic or stuff in IFR land. That's VFR terms. They'll say circle to the west or what have you. I mean, sometimes you might hear them say it, but I don't think that's standard, right? So we come in, boom, done. Also would be fine to just go like this and make sort of like a non-standard pattern. Like that's also fine.
Is that something you get clearance for?
You have to be told, to circle. Exactly. You have to be
No,
told.
no, as far as how that looks, right?
You can circle however you want
With
with
you're a few couple miles out, they're gonna say clear to land,
circle to the west, clear to land, runway 15.
so you could do bending pattern.
Correct. Correct. There's only one restriction. Does anybody remember what it is? Ah, you have to stay in the protected area. Exactly. Exactly. And so what is the protected area? How do we know what the protected area is?
Prices of you can't circle to east. Then wouldn't the protected area be? Wait, anything on the northwest?
Well, that's a good, I like where you're going, Chris, but that's not always going to be the case. Restricted area means we can't circle over there. So obviously that's not going to be part of our protected. But if this was a standard, you know, there were no restrictions. How do we know? Jacob, you said there's like, what'd you say? 1.3 nautical miles? From where? Okay, which runway? All of the ones for which we're authorized to land, right? So 1.3 nautical miles from this runway, 1.3 from this one, 1.3 from this one, 1.3 from this one. And then the FAA says, okay, draw an arc that's 1.3 nautical miles from the end of each runway. Join those arcs up at their tangent. That's your protected area. That's your protected area. How did you know it was 1.3 nautical miles? Yeah, exactly. You wrote it down because ground school told me to, right? Anybody? Yeah, which we call the Turks for short. Exactly, exactly. I posted the picture of it in the Discord, but you get to it from documents, FAA. It's right there. Documents, FAA, TERPS. It's on page 5 of the PDF.
It was page 6.
They did update it, right? They did update it. Yep. 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 So if we're category A and our MDA, our minimum descent altitude for the circling approach is 7,000 feet or less, 1.3 nautical miles. Cool. So we can basically do, if we're told like, circle to the west, clear to land, runway 15, we could do whatever we want here. We do not have to fly a standard pattern as long as we stay within the protected area. Yeah.
Or you can go.
Boom.
You divide the categories. We
Yeah.
divide by the airspeed.
Yeah.
But which segment are they, is that when you pass the MDA or TM?
No, it's the final approach segment, which is the final approach fix to either your landing or the missed approach point.
So the whole segment, if you are below 90, you're category A. If
Yes,
you were to exceed above 90, you consider it category B.
correct.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Yep. So could we ever be category B in a sling?
Yes.
What, under what circumstances would we be category B? Sure, or what else? Maybe tailwind, maybe some kind of wind, right? Wind shear, any of that could mean, yeah, we're gonna be landing or approaching, rather not landing faster than normal. We're approaching faster than normal, keeping a higher approach speed. Yeah, and if it's 91 knots or better, right? Up category B. What's the limit of category B airspeed? 120. Exactly. That's the top limit.
I was gonna ask if it changes based on airport.
No, you mean the category speed
Yeah, the
limits?
category.
No,
So-
category speed limits are constant
Oh.
for all airports.
What
Yeah.
about outside the like the United States?
Oh, that I don't know. But at least in the United States, the categories are constant. Yeah. Cool. All right, so this could be a circling maneuver. Circle west, we can do this, we can do that, we can do whatever. Okay, last bit of review from circling from yesterday. Say I'm on the circling approach that Sergio drew on the iPad. I'm going to copy it up here on the ground, or on the board, I mean. Let's see. So I'm coming in, runway 8. I'm on the localizer. My needle's centered. It's not the sim. I'm right on the center line. They give me the clearance to circle to the west, runway 15. I come over here. I do kind of like a lazy pattern. But say right here, I fly into a cloud. I fly into a cloud. Now what do I do? Ian, what do I do? What's that? Sorry, I was looking at Sergio. Tell me, what do you do? I'm sorry, what's your name again? Kaz, I'm so sorry, Kaz. That's my bad. Kaz, what do I do? Two steps. What's the first step you said? Turn towards the runway. Turn towards the runway. Why do you do that first? That's a protected area. I know I'm safe on the runway. What if I didn't turn towards the runway first and I was like, you know what? I'm in the clouds going mist. What's the mist procedure? Somebody still have the chart open? You have it open. Sergio, what does it say?
Climb 1800, then climbing right turn to 1,600. To
What's the first step? Climb straight ahead to 1800?
yes.
So if I was going to start the mist approach from here, and then what does it say? Right turn to,
Then a right turn to 4,600. So you got to climb, I guess, clear all the terrain.
look what happens if I had if I had started the missed procedure here and I'm like, cool, straight ahead, climbing 1800, where do I end up? Anybody familiar with the valley? What's happening over here? Geographically, mountains. That's why we can't circle northeast of these runways, right? That's why we can't do it. Yeah.
And maybe because of the situation you explained,
Yeah.
I just looked at taxiway chart.
Yeah.
Looks like the tower is also at the northeast side.
Tower. Oh, it's right here. It looks like. Yep.
If that could be a part of the reason.
I don't think so.
So you don't fly that low. You at least fly above all the.
How high do you fly? You're asking how high do we fly in the circling maneuver?
No, when they calculate that, they should put everything above all the.
Oh, you're worried that we might hit the control tower.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Does it say how tall it is?
I think so.
What did
I
you
don't think so either.
Chart 7?
I don't think so. I've never seen the height of the control tower listed. Have you? No. But right, when the FAA is designing these protected areas and figuring out what's the MDA for circling, they're taking into account all of the obstacles within the protected area. So they draw these circles 1.3 nautical miles, right? When they're figuring out the minimums for category A circle to land. They figure all that and they know what's the highest obstacle, then they add a little bit of extra. A ton of extra. I think it's like 300 feet. Where would I find the answer to that, by the way? What FAA publication? If you really want to go deep on this stuff. Where do they describe in great detail? Instrument Procedures Handbook. Instrument Procedures Handbook. Yeah, getting close to your final phase check, getting close to your check ride, pour yourself a favorite beverage, and just read that sucker.
You go in circling to land
Yeah,
and you go into the clouds.
yeah.
You head over to runway 15 and you do the missed approach. The missed approach, isn't that for runway 8?
Exactly. The missed approach is designed to be started like somewhere over here. Exactly. So that's why I can't start it over there. It's not designed for that. I'm going to hit mountains or a building or a control tower. We don't know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so you turn to 15, you do the missed approach for runway 8?
No. So your question is like, so now what do I do? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about that. So Kaz told us, step 1, turn towards the runway. So red is not what we're going to do. Gonna put out the purple. Step 1, turn towards the runway. That's the first step. We know we're safe. We know we're protected. We know the missed approach started somewhere over here. But now I got to do some pilot shit, right? I'm like, well, I know the missed approach started here. I know it said to climb. So what can I maybe also do as I turn towards the runway? What would be another good idea? Start a climb, right? Start a climb as I'm turning towards the runway. Exactly. Then if I'm at a towered field, sling 5 Alpha Zulu, we went back into a cloud, going missed. Sling 5 Alpha Zulu, Roger. Turn to a heading of 180, climb maintain 2000, contact SoCal departure on whatever frequency. And they're going to help you out. If it's pilot controlled field, well, you're going to make this turn. You're going to start your climb, make an announcement on CTAF, and immediately call approach again and tell them what happened so that then they can help you out. That's single pilot resource management, right? That's us using our resources outside. They'll figure it out. They have radar, right? They see, they know. They'll give us a heading. They'll give us something to climb to get us safe. In the meantime, the immediate action we've taken gets us safe. A turn and a climb. Turn towards the runway. What if I had gone into the clouds here? Erica, come draw it, please. What would you do? Let's see. Jacob, come draw it, please.
We got into a cloud.
You got into a cloud right there where I put the purple X.
Just do the same thing but earlier.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Turn towards the runway and climb. That's it. That's it.
And while you're climbing and talking to SoCal, you're circling the airport? I mean, it's gonna take.
Look, say you're, I don't know, it's pilot controlled field. There's, for whatever reason, other traffic you're having to coordinate with. You get delayed in being able to call back SoCal, right? And so now you're like over here. You still haven't gotten a heading or a vector. Then yeah, stay in your protected area, right? Stay in your protected, you're safe there. You're safe. But hopefully, right? Well, not hopefully, you should brief this. So, like if at any point we go into the clouds again, or we lose sight with the runway, this is the maneuver we're going to do so you're ready. But if, I don't know, you call SoCal, they're super busy, or they ignore you, or your radio, whatever, then yeah, you could just stay in your protected area.
Why would we do that instead of going to the miss approach?
Great question. Why would I do that instead of just being like, I know that Mr. Approach Point's over here. Why don't I just fly back over here?
Predictability.
Sure, but what's another possibility? Could be traffic there. What's another possibility? Usually the missed approach point, I don't know if usually, maybe that's too strong a word. It could be outside of our protected area, right? There's no guarantee that on every approach, the missed approach point is going to be inside our protected area. Yeah. The other thing is that then we have a problem like which direction we're headed, right? So if I go missed and I come back here and I want to go back to well, now I'm facing the wrong direction. Now I got to do like, I don't know, some kind of like parallel entry for my missed approach, and then we're really screwed. Right? And I think it's actually harder to do that because it's not like I can press on my GTN 650 like always like direct whatever that point was. I just want to try to get myself safe.
I think Wayne's question was, I think that's also what I was wondering. Why don't we just proceed missed instead of circling?
Okay. You mean like if I was to get my turn going?
Yeah, assume we have a high enough altitude.
Sure. So in this case, you're saying, all right, I've turned towards the runway.
Yeah.
But I don't have a heading yet. SoCal hasn't given me instructions. Tower hasn't given me any instructions. Could I just figure out which way the mist is? I know that it said go straight ahead to 1800 and then a right turn, right? I can see it on my chart, on my plate. Why can't I just do that? Is that your question? Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
The answer is for the same reasons we just talked about why you can't do it, why you can't go back to the missed approach, right? There could be traffic, there could be terrain. We don't know. We don't have enough information based on what we have in the cockpit to make sure that we're going to stay clear of the obstacles unless we do that procedure from the missed approach point. Now, look, aeronautical decision making is tested in the ACS, right? So if this was a conversation you're having with the DPE and you were like, well, I know that if I go straight ahead from the missed approach point to 1800 and then I start my climbing right turn, that I'm good. So I have a pretty good sense that down here, I'm pretty safe. I don't think they're going to be upset about that. That shows that you're having good aeronautical decision making. But if you say, and then I'm just going to send it, that's not coordinated procedure. Yeah. Because for all the other reasons, there could be terrain we don't know about. You need to be in touch with other, with ATC to get instructions when we're going to go missed. We're going to go back into controlled airspace, all of that jazz. But if I were you and we all are doing this already, we're building a mental model of our situational awareness, right? And that's going to be part of what keeps us safe. Did that adequately answer your question? I don't know if that was a satisfying answer or not. Yeah. Jacob and then Sergio.
If you go into the clouds like in the top section.
Yeah, like up here?
Yeah, and you start circling.
Yeah.
Even though it's not the missed approach, you would still tell them that you're going miss.
Yeah, you would say, went back into IMC during the circling maneuver. That would be fine to say. Yeah. They should know, right? They should know where you are. They can see you on the radar. Tower should be able to see. They're probably watching you too. They don't have anything better to do. It's an IFR day in Burbank. Like, they're keeping an eye out. They're like, oh, that guy's going to go into the cloud again. Yep, he went into the cloud again. Okay, I'm ready to send a missed if they're on their game, right? Which in an airport like Burbank, they probably are. Honestly, at any control tower. Have you ever been in the control tower here? Who's been to the control tower here? What was it? What was the weather like on the day you were there? Was it VMC? Was it IMC?
It was clear.
You were there on a beautiful, clear day?
Yeah.
How busy was it up there on a beautiful, clear day?
I wasn't at this tower, I was a different tower.
Different tower. Okay, so those of you who've been to this tower, how busy was it?
It was busy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's good or bad. Okay.
They made him laugh. It's like so tired. We had come back and they were like, save parking.
Uh-huh.
And I like wasn't thinking.
You were like parking. I thought it was Zulu. Yeah, yeah. Was it IFR or VFR when you were there? It was marginal. Was it busy? It wasn't, right? Were you there together? Marginal, not busy.
No, it was very.
The one time I, go ahead. Yeah, I've been in two towers. One was here. It was a morning like this morning. There's 5 people sitting around doing nothing. Like they have nothing better to do than to get excited about your IFR circle to land. So they're gonna be on their game, right? That's literally all they're doing. I've been in Van Nuys on a beautiful VFR day. They were extraordinarily busy. But on a beautiful VFR day, you're gonna be able to look outside in your circling maneuver and not fly into a mountain. Right? In our training, we're under the foggles. But I don't know if we've talked about this yet. If you're on an IFR flight plan and you're in VMC, you still have the responsibility to see and avoid, just like we do in VFR. You know, obviously there's separation that ATC is providing for you, but ultimately you still have to be looking outside if you're on an actual IFR flight plan. In our training, of course, we're under the foggles, but safety pilot next to us to keep an eye out. But that's how that would work. Anyway, my point is that the towers at these fields are on it, right? They're ready for you. They're watching. If it's a marginal day at an airport like this, they're very bored. They're not allowed to play, you know, I don't know, Candy Crush on their phones while they're in the tower cab. They're just waiting for you to come and do a circle to land to make their day. Yeah. Sorry, it was Sergio and then
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Then
go ahead.
Sergio.
I'm sorry.
So, going back to that missed approach, right? If
Yeah.
you encounter IMC while you're doing the circle to land.
yeah,
There's one missed approach point, right?
correct.
So shouldn't, when you get to that point, obviously the rules say, hey, you're at the altitude. Can you see the runway? Can you see the runway lights? Shouldn't it be, can you see the runway lights of the other runway? But when you look at that, you do the quick geometry, it's like a mile away. And missed approach point is a mile, almost
Yeah.
a mile. So you're almost 2 miles away. How do you gotta make the call saying I could see the other runway, otherwise it's game over, right?
Totally. The designers of the approach, when they're designing the minimums both for ceilings and visibility,
Yeah.
right? Or sorry, for your MDA and for visibility, they have exactly that in mind. What is the visibility minimum on this approach? Let's see, for circle to land. 1 1/8 mile, right? See how it says there for category A? 1 1/8 mile. So they're comfortable, the approach designers are comfortable with you being only able to have a flight visibility of 1 1/8 mile, statute mile. So you're right, Sergio. You could break out of the clouds here at your MDA of 1280 and then be just chilling at 1280 all the way and still not be able to see runway 15. You have to be able to see the runway you're landing on. You don't necessarily have to see the threshold, right? You have to be, this whole circling maneuver is visual.
So
Because I don't have a heading bug, I don't have a CDI to follow. So hold on just 1 second, please. Right, so I have to be able to see it. But if I have a 1.1 miles, then the designers are confident that I can see at least some part of the airport surface to be able to navigate visually. If they didn't think that, they would make it a higher minimum. And actually, look, if we're going fast, look at the visibility minimums for category C and D, right? Because they're going so fast, we're going faster in C and D, which means we need to see that stuff sooner so we can make our circle maneuver. They also give us more circling area, protected area when we're C or D. But because of that, the circling area is bigger, so our MDA is higher because there's going to be more obstructions because it's a bigger, not always, right? If this is Kansas, whatever, like it's all flat and there's just one water tower and that's it. So it doesn't matter what category you're in, it's all going to be the same. But here in Burbank, right, the bigger you make that circle, that protected area, the higher you make the MDA. Chris, and then we'll come back to you.
so does that mean 91-175 is not applicable to circle?
Half an hour in, we've already talked about 9175. My day is made good. What was that, Chris? Sorry.
Does that mean
Sorry.
it's not applicable to circle to land?
Is 91-175 applicable to circle to land?
Yeah.
Yes. Always. Always.
So does that mean we need to see lights in order to land?
Okay, so let's actually talk about for real now 91-175, if that's okay. Or actually, let me put a pause because you had a question about the circling.
Yes.
Go.
Uh,
But we're gonna talk about
just because
9175.
you said the circling in the protected area
Yeah,
was a better choice. I have a disagreement,
tell me.
but
Tell me.
But this is very logical.
Yeah.
Let's say you go into IMT and you lose pump.
Oh,
Proceeding missed expected move for the AT, toward the ATC. If that, why wouldn't you just do that when you have a comm, when that is just expected procedure?
so you're saying, what if here I lose both my radios and my visual side of the one? Is that what you're saying?
That's gonna be a shit day for you.
Then you're saying that's a bad day, correct? Then what are you saying?
Wouldn't just proceeding miss the climb?
Sure.
turn?
Then in that case, you have to do some real pilot shit.
So if that is expected procedure,
Sure.
why wouldn't you just do it when, even though you have all the resource, why would you do circle?
Because that's a very high workload situation, right? If I'm here, already circling approaches are, right? I'm now doing visual in bad weather, low. How low am I right here?
1,006.
If I'm in category A, I'm 502 feet of AGL. Right? That's what it says here in the parentheses. Parentheses is AGL. Let's try. Oh, I am on Zulu. How low do I get on Yankee? And yeah, it's also.
We should brief the pool before.
See, this is such a good example of you have to introduce the plate, just like you introduced Beyonce. This is the Burbank ILS Yankee runway 8. I see 842. Am I on the right plate now? Okay, Kaz nods his head. So 842, right? By the way, what's a typical traffic pattern AGL standard?
1,000 feet.
1,000. So I'm actually lower than standard visual TPA while I'm like doing this maneuver. This is wild, right? This is wild. So if I then, not only do I lose sight with the runway, but then I lose my radios, that is a very high workload situation because now I don't have anybody outside to help me. This is now a non-standard, right? I have to get on a mist from a point where the mist was not designed. So usually tower or approach is going to help me, but now I don't have them. I'm probably going to be very task saturated, especially if I'm single pilot, right? In that case, I'm probably just circling here, climbing, almost like it was a Vacoa, except, I'm using maybe my avionics to help me. I turn on roll mode. I, put in a climb, put in my indicated airspeed climb. I use some of the automation to help me, like we talked about last week. And I'm just getting higher because maybe I lost my radios because I was too low or something. If it wouldn't make sense because we're over an airport, but I don't know. The point is, you're going to have to do some kind of calculation about how to get on that mist. And anytime we let our own selves be like the ones to calculate, we can make mistakes, especially in IFR where we can't see. So that's why it's not standard to just send it. Yeah.
That
Cool.
makes sense, yeah.
Cool. Should we talk about my favorite?
Sure.
Oh, finally. I don't think we've referenced it a million times, but we haven't actually gotten a chance to sit down with my friend 91175.
We were teasing.
We were teasing. We were doing the slow burn on 9175. Taking off and landing under IFR. There are 3 regs that I keep harping on that you're almost guaranteed to talk about. 9175. What's another one? Anybody?
91.
What's that, Chris? Lost comms. And what's another one? 205. What's that? Required equipment, right? Grab cart. So those are the ones that you're almost guaranteed to. Here is 9175. Let's actually read it. Unless otherwise authorized, when you're using an instrument approach, you must use the procedure established for that approach. So this is pretty straightforward, right? You got to fly the approach. If you don't, you're in violation of 91175 alpha, pilot deviation. Here's your phone number, bad day. You have to use it. Bravo. Authorized decision altitude or minimum descent altitude. So what is it? For the purpose of this section, when the approach procedure provides for a decision altitude or a minimum descent altitude, it's the highest of what's put on the approach, what's prescribed for the pilot in command. Sometimes companies or pilots will have a higher minima that's what's on the approach, or sometimes the aircraft or the equipment on the aircraft will have a higher minima. For our purposes, it's just what's on the approach. Charlie, when can you go below your DA or your MDA? Except as provided in 91-176, no pilot may operate an aircraft below the authorized MDA or continue an approach below the authorized DA unless, and now we have three main things. One, you are continuously in a position from which a descent to landing on the intended runway can be made at a normal rate of descent using normal maneuvers and for ops conducted under Part 121 or 135, unless the descent rate will allow for touchdown to occur within the touchdown zone of the runway. So what does this mean in practice? How much descent rate can I do? It only says normal rate of descent.
Nothing crazy.
Sure, nothing crazy, but we have to put a number on it.
What a slip count?
Slip counts as not a normal rate of descent.
That's crazy.
That's right.
So you're talking 500 to 1,000?
500 to 1,000, no more than 1,000 feet a minute. No more than 1,000 feet a minute.
Even then, I think 1,000 per minute is
You're gonna kind of have your ears popped, maybe, right? It's not gonna be as so comfortable for your passengers at 1,000 feet a minute, potentially. But you know, that's still considered within the limits of Charlie 1. Okay, 1,000 feet a minute, no slips, no S turns, no. I'm trying to think of what else we would do. Getting really slow, so you get that real sink in, putting in flaps while you're still 3 miles out, 8
No
miles
flap.
out. I don't know. There's just, you have to be a normal rate of descent using normal maneuvers. That's basically a stabilized descent straight in. No S turns, no slips, none of that,
flat landing.
of course.
Is a steep turn a normal maneuver?
You would not do a steep turn on an instrument approach.
Thinking of like the circle to land example.
No, there's no steep turns in IFR. It's just standard rate. Because steep turns are a visual maneuver. So we have to be able to look outside of the horizon and know, okay, what's my 45, what's my 50 degrees, and do the steep turn. But we don't have horizon. So I can only use my rate of turn indicator.
Yeah, like say there's a cloud and you're in VMC and you're doing a circle to land, you could do a steep turn and
Sure. If you're in VMC, go for it. Yeah. But still no slips, still no S turns, still none of that. That would be a violation of 91-175. Because even though you're in VMC, you're still on an IFR flight plan, right? You're still operating under instrument rules. Cool. 2, the flight visibility is not less than the visibility prescribed in the plate, on the approach plate. Notice this says flight visibility, right? So what did we say that, now that I'm on the correct plate, 1.25 miles visibility for circling category A at Burbank on the Yankee, LS Yankee. But that's flight visibility, which they define earlier in the definitions as what you can see from your seat in the cockpit. Not necessarily what the ATIS says. And in Part 91, if the ATIS is reporting a mile and you look down on your plate, you're like, oh, my minimum visibility is 1.25 miles. In Part 91, you can still say, I'm gonna try it, right? If you determine that you can see from your cockpit 1.25 miles, you're legal. The next question is, how do I know if I'm see 1.25 miles ahead of me when I'm in the clouds? That I cannot tell you, but you have to determine it, and you have to be convincing and confident. Yeah, exactly. And if a check ride situation, right? The DP's like, how do you know? Well, you could say things like, well, I happen to know that, right? Like on 29er right, the distance between, the 29er right, that distance is about 1 mile. Or use something you're familiar with. Say like, okay, I'm familiar with this. That's how far I could see. And then you could say like, well, but also I want to be safe. So if it's on the edge, maybe the ATIS, I'm just gonna, pick an alternate or go somewhere else. Because they're testing not only your knowledge, but also your risk management. Risk management's on every task of the ACS. Don't forget. Okay, now our favorite. Charlie 3. Except for category 2 or category 3 approaches, you have to have at least one of the following visual references for the intended runway distinctly visible and identifiable to the pilot. Erica, will you read I for us, please?
Yeah. The flight system and below 1 feet above the touchdown zone elevation, using the approach lights as a reference unless the red terminating bars for the red side row bars are also distinctly visible and identifiable.
Okay, let's decode this. What's that exactly? Not a thing. You can tell this was written by an attorney and not a pilot, right? I'm gonna draw just like a fake, like this is an approximation of the approach lighting system in runway 8, right? What this is saying is that if the only thing I see, because there's 10 options here, right, of things I can see. The reg says I only need to see one of them. If the only thing I see is that rabbit, that strobe light being like land here, here's the center line, land here, but I don't see any of the other things like the threshold markings, the threshold lights, any of that, then what I can do is I can descend below my DA or my MDA, but only to a minimum of 100 feet above touchdown zone elevation. Sometimes people call this secondary minimums, meaning, all right, I see the approach lighting system, but nothing else, it's low vis. I can now descend beyond DA, but only to 100 feet above touchdown zone elevation. That's partly why the plate tells us TDZE, touchdown zone elevation, so we can calculate that.
So I'm not sure if this is a terrible question or like,
Sure, go.
but let's say me and you are flying.
Yeah.
And it's IMC.
Yeah.
And I already have my instrument, like my rating, so I
Yeah.
kinda don't need your like
Yeah, you're ready for your final phase check. You're
Yeah.
ready for your check ride.
if
Yeah.
I see the approach lighting system
Yeah,
and I see all those, but you don't,
yeah.
is it okay? Like, and if I land, that's okay, right? Cause if like as long as I see it, cause I'm the one flying.
So you're saying that we're a crew,
Oh.
and you look up and you're like, I see the strobe lights, and the person sitting next to you is like, I don't see the strobe lights. I'm sure there are company procedures for what to do for that particular case. I don't know. I would use your judgment on what to do in that case. If it's in a sling, well, first of all, it wouldn't be in a sling because we don't go in IMC. But if you're in a Cessna, right, and you're with an instructor in a Cessna, and that happens, I would probably defer to the instructor and what they do. I don't really know, but I assume I'm quite certain that airlines, where there's more than one crew member required for the aircraft, there's procedures for what you would do. I don't know. What would you do?
Well, if I see it and if I'm competent, then yeah, I could
Yeah.
land it. But
Cool.
then there's always gonna be in the back of my head, oh, why'd you land the plane if I didn't? Like how were you able to see it but not me? Like when we're sitting in the same.
Yeah, maybe what you actually saw was like a stoplight, or maybe what you actually saw was a strobe light on top of the KFI antenna while you're inbound to Fullerton or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, that's not a very satisfying answer, but be safe. If that was a question on a check ride, err on the side of being safe, err on the side of being conservative. Oh, I'll go around. If my crew member doesn't, see it also, we're just gonna go around. So what would be the secondary minimums on the Burbank ILS? Say we're going straight in, right? And we were landing on the ILS runway. This is the ILS Yankee now. What would be my quote secondary minimums? Yep, which is what? At or above 827. Right? I just zoomed in here. Touchdowns on elevation, 727, right? So at or above, no lower than 827. Exactly. That's quote secondary. Then once I'm down there, if I see any of the other 9 things, then I'm good to go. Threshold lights, runway and identifier lights, visual glide slope, all of that jazz. Then I can descend all the way to the runway. Make sense? So I kind of call this category the runway and the runway environment. You should know all these 10 things. The DPE may ask you for some of them. They probably will. If I forget 1 or 2, I can always reference 91-175. That's why I have 91-175 memorized, and I can pull it up real quick. But this is all runway environment. Pavement, paint, markings, lights, with the only little asterisk being if I only see the approach lighting system, then I can descend only to secondary minimums. Good so far? No, landing. No pilot may operate an aircraft. You may not land when for operations conductor 91-176, the requirements of, we'd have to look up 91-176. Not sure what those are. For all other operations under parts 121, 125, 129, 135, the flight visibility is less than the visibility prescribed. So if you're operating part 121, any of these, you have to have the flight visibility prescribed in the plate.
But not for us.
Yeah, that's right. 91, the Cowboys of the Sky. This also describes the missed approach procedure. You shall immediately execute a missed approach procedure when either of the following conditions exist. Whenever you cannot get any of the things from paragraph C. Or when you accidentally go below MDA, when you don't have those things, you gotta go missed. Or upon arrival at the missed approach point, and and anytime after that until touchdown, let's see, upon arrival at the missed approach point, including a DA or DA where the DA is specified and its use is required, and at any time after that. Oh, that's just saying, these lawyers, I'm telling you, this just says go missed if you don't have things to see. Would you agree? Okay. Are there any attorneys in here? Sometimes there are attorneys. Okay. We have mechanics, but no attorneys.
I was trying to be an attorney, but it didn't work out.
All right, well, pilot's a good backup plan. Then this has also our takeoff minimums. This is where we get the right back to week 2 for aircrafts other than helicopters having 2 engines or less, where we need our 1 statute mile visibility for our takeoff standard takeoff minimums, or half a mile if we have more than 2 engines. Helicopters can send it with just half a mile as well. You have to follow an obstacle departure procedure. So actually has a lot. It has landing, it has takeoff. It even has this chart converting RVR to statute miles. Like, why did they put that in 191.75? But cool. Jepson does that for us. They automatically, convert for us, which is another great reason to use Jepson.
What is RVRs?
Oh, runway visual range. It's a basically, if I'm standing on the runway, how far down the runway can I see? Yeah. It's like a more localized version of the visibility. Visibility up report on ATIS could be from wherever the weather station is on the field. RVR is like I'm standing on the runway at a particular point. I'm looking down. How many feet can I see? And 91.75 even ends with the ILS components. Wild, right? 91.75. Cool. Yeah.
I think I asked you the same question last time.
Tell me.
But for the runway environment
Yeah.
of the 91-175,
Yeah.
strobe lights, we can descend down to 100 feet.
Yeah.
Above the touchdown zone elevation.
Yeah.
DP asked you, okay, so you descend down to 100 feet. How far can you fly?
Yeah.
How would you answer?
Until you either reach the missed approach point or until you are over the runway, right? Like if you're past the approach lights, the approach lights ended, I can't see anything more, missed.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Now I think about it, that was a pretty easy question.
Well, here's the thing about flying though, right? And that's why you have a practical exam, because like there's only so much we can write down they can't put every single possible thing that'll ever happen in the FARs in the regs, right? That's why we have regs that say like, as pilot in command, you're ultimately responsible for the safety of the flight. And if you need to deviate from a rule to stay safe, right, in an emergency, you're allowed to do that. And on the flip side, I think it's 91.13, it says, if you do something dumb and reckless, don't do that, or we'll come for your cert. They have it both ways. But yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Plead the fifth.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely don't talk until you've discussed things with your lawyer. Definitely. So, yeah, tell me.
Can you go past your missed approach point and keep descending to your 100 feet above touchdown?
Yes. Well, yes, that's right. Because these are the 10, you have to have one of these 10 things in sight in order to descend below your minimum altitudes and go past that missed approach point. That's right.
As long as I can see the approach light system, I could keep descending, go past my missed approach point.
Correct.
And then make the call as we go down lower and lower and say, okay, no, we're.
Exactly. Anybody have any ideas why they allow us to do that? Like, what's going to happen in real life if I only see the approach lighting system, and then I get down to 100 feet above the touchdown zone?
You probably see.
That'd be a really bad marine layer, right? That's a really low vis day. If I'm 100 feet, like I've lived in apartment buildings much taller than that, right? Like that is not very high. So the FAA is basically comfortable saying, we know this is a protected area, right? We know you're good. You're gonna see some kind of other light, right?
Those lights, how bright do you think? They're like pretty bright, right?
Somebody was saying, who was saying yesterday that like Long Beach 30 is lit up like a Christmas tree or something? Was that you? I think that might have been you even. Anybody landed at night on 29 right? Their first lights on?
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think even I had to reduce the brightness to like
uh-huh.
medium or
Yeah.
Oh, the high ones give you, what's that thing called? See, like,
Autokinesis.
no, it's not. When the lights expand on your eyes, I don't know.
I don't know what this is called.
It's like, they look like Christmas tree lights when you squint your eyes.
yeah.
Yeah.
You get like starbursts from
Yeah.
it. Is that what you mean? Okay. Yeah. Gotta turn it down. Cool. All right, team. This is ILS. This is circling approaches. Are we feeling okay about that? One more thing I want to talk about now is the localizer approach. Okay. We talked yesterday about the different kinds of approaches, and we were separating out between precision approaches and non-precision approaches. What is the definition of a thanks, Rigo. Have a good morning. You got it. What's the definition of a precision approach? What was that, Jacob? I have vertical and lateral guidance, and there's another phrase for
And
Jacob.
information from a ground-based station at the airport.
From a ground-based nav aid at the airport. Exactly. That's the legal definition. So for us, the only kind of legal, right, precision approach we can fly is called an ILS. But the ILS has two components, as Kate beautifully drew for us on our warm-up, right? The localizer and the glide slope. Say the glide slope's out of service. Well, we can still use the localizer, but then it becomes a non-precision approach. So let's talk about what a localizer approach would be. This is exactly the same as an ILS in terms of how I set up, how I program in the nav aid, how I program in the localizer, except now because I don't have any vertical guidance, I have to fly it differently. So let me switch over here to the plate again. Now that I'm on the correct Yankee.
Is it expired?
Is it expired? What's the NOTAM say? Outer marker out of service. Oh no. I'm gonna fly this as a non-precision approach. So a couple of changes here. If I scroll down to my minimums, you'll notice that instead of now a decision altitude, for the localizer, I have an MDA. The difference is on a DA, I descend with my vertical guidance until I get to that decision altitude, and that's my decision point. I go missed or I descend if I have one of the 10 things, if I have all the things in 91-175. With MDA, minimum descent, I descend to that altitude, and then I continue to just dive and drive, we sometimes call it, drive at that altitude until my missed approach point. So one of the things about ILSs is that it's actually two approaches on one plate. We get both the ILS and the localizer on one plate. It's two kinds of approaches. You know how the ACS, maybe you don't know, the ACS says you have to do three, or actually the FIR say you have to do three kinds of approaches on your instrument long cross country.
Yeah.
Well, an ILS and a localizer are two different kinds of approaches, even though they're on the same plate. One is a precision approach, the other is a non-precision approach. So how does the localizer differ from the ILS? One is the altitude is different. You can see we have different visibility requirements, and how we fly it is different. So let's look at the profile view. When I'm coming from Silex to Buddy, when I'm on the localizer, I stay at 3,000 all the way to Buddy. See that little cross, call that the Maltese cross? That's the symbol for the final approach fix for the non-precision approach, so for the localizer. After that, I can descend all the way to my minimums of 1620. Once I'm at 1620, see how this dotted line kind of flattens out? I just chill at 1620 until my missed approach point, which is noted here with the M. This CFBXN is actually a computer waypoint that we can put into like a GPS like this, and it'll know where it is. Sometimes it's just the runway threshold. Sometimes it's a VOR or other nav aid. But in this case, it's 9/10 of a mile from the localizer, and or not from the localizer, from the runway threshold, and CFBXN. That's our missed approach point. So if I don't have 91,175 satisfied by the time I get there, gotta go missed. But until I get there, I can chill, and I should chill at the minimums of 1620. That's it.
So you could only determine that missed approach point. Yeah. DME or.
Two ways, three ways, I guess. GPS, DME, and the last way is the timer. This is why we start a timer when we hit the final approach fix. So if after Buddy, if I'm at a 90 knot ground speed, it's probably too fast, right? I'm saying I'm at an 80 knot ground speed. It's going to take me somewhere between 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes, 27 seconds, and 3 minutes, 28 seconds to get to the missed approach point. That's why you start a timer at the final approach fix. So I can kind of interpolate between there. It's going to be about what, 4 minutes or so, right? Cool. So if I have a ground speed of 80 knots, then it's going to take me 4 minutes to get to my missed approach point. So if my timer goes to 4 minutes and I don't have 91,175 satisfied, missed.
You use ATC as well and ask them to identify across.
Sure. They could say no. And they might also say you missed before you actually get to the missed approach point, which gives you a lesser chance of being able to land. Because they're probably going to err on the side of conservative. But the best ways are to do it either with the timer, GPS, or with DME nav aid.
Do we have DME in this case?
Do we have DME?
Because
No.
we're tuned into the local.
We don't. But we can substitute GPS distance for DME. The FA says so. Yeah.
But this one, we're on the final approach segment, so we're legally not allowed to.
Well, you can't substitute, the only thing you cannot substitute GPS for is guidance on the final approach segment. So from the final approach fix to landing or to the missed approach point of a ground-based nav aid. But for DME, you can still use it.
Oh, DME.
But you can't use it for your needles, right? Or for this other needle.
Yeah, so
But DME, you can still use it. Correct. And what's actually interesting is like, what are these distances from? Well, they look to me like they're distances from the runway threshold. But if this had like see how Silex has D 6.1 VNY? That means it's 6.1 DME from the Van Nuys VOR. You can also have DME from the localizer. And then in which case it would say D and then whatever the code for the localizer is, right? Ours is IBUR, IBUR. In this case, it doesn't have that, but if it did, that would be your DME from the localizer antenna. Yes.
Wouldn't that profile view GPS distance then?
Yeah.
Oh, so it is more accurate to use GPS.
Sure. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, we're so low to the ground here, the slant range error is negligible.
Okay.
So this is important to just differentiate, right? There's two approaches on this plate. Well, really three, because circle to land, you could satisfy your instrument long cross country as long as this was as long as it satisfied the distance requirements, and you could do three approaches at Burbank, right? You could do the ILS, the localizer, and the circle to land. Those are three different kinds of approaches. You have signed off your 91 or 61, 65, whatever that part of the reg is. Yeah. Notice one other thing. This is common misconception. What's the final approach fix for the localizer? We just talked about it, but let's just reiterate to review. What's the final approach fix on the localizer approach?
At Buddy.
Wherever the Maltese cross is, in this case, Buddy. Cool. What's the missed approach point for the localizer? We just talked about it, but just to reiterate. Wherever the M is, exactly, wherever the M is. Those are easy. Here's where it gets more complicated. On a precision approach or an approach with vertical guidance where I have a glide slope, what's the final approach fix for the ILS? Yeah, they draw it, Jepson draws it like this. The answer is when I intercept the glide slope at the altitude prescribed. So the altitude prescribed is 3,000. So when I'm chilling after Silex at 3,000 and my glide slope comes in, then that's where I intercept. That's my final approach fix. What's my missed approach point on the precision approach?
That's the.
That's DA down here, right? That's DA. Cool.
You don't see the surface.
Correct.
Is that why the M has a line in the all the way towards the bottom or no? That's just like coincidence.
Yeah, this is just, I think it's just how they drew it. It's sort of trying to flatten out here to indicate that you're cruising at 1620 at your DA. By the way, I don't think we talked about this yesterday. Maybe Kate talked about it yesterday. There's a limitation of a glide slope. It's a little different than limitations of localizers, where you can have false glide slopes. Basically, and I'm not exactly sure the physics of this, but if I draw a quickie wow, that was terrible glide slope antenna. If I draw a little glide slope antenna here, right? I've got my antennas on it. It's sending out these two signals, right? That's how I'm getting my glide slope. There's, I think because of, I don't know, the way it radiates or bounces from the ground or what have you, some false glide slopes that get projected above our actual glide slope. And I have to go back to the instrument procedures handbook to remember exactly, but I think, normal glide slope is about 3 degrees. I think you have another false glide slope at, I think, 6, another one at like 9 or 12. There's some kind of math that's happening where you have these false glide slopes above your real glide slope. So how do we ensure we're not on a false glide slope? We intercept from below. That's why it's so important that we're at 3,000 on our way to get that glide slope. Because if we're higher, we might accidentally grab one of these false glide slopes that will take us in at a much greater descent rate and could potentially lead to an unstable approach.
At that point, that chart with the timer, would its meaning is.
Yeah. And you might not be able to do this at 1,000 feet, less than 1,000 feet. There's so much to know about approaches. This is why I love week 4. I also am like, how are we supposed to cover all of this in 1 week? It's like all of it. Okay, questions on the Burbank ILS Yankee or localizer Yankee before we put it to bed? We can always come back. We can always end here. Let's talk about some other kinds of approaches. Yes. So we've talked about localizer. We just talked about localizer approaches. Note about final approach fixes. Somebody want to read this for us, please? Chris, will you?
Precision final approach fixes is not the same as a non-precision final approach fix. Often they will be the same fix, but the altitudes may be different. The Maltese cross is the final approach fix for the non-precision approach. The glide slope is the final approach fix for the precision. In the example below, both final approach fixes are at the same place. Wolfie,
Yeah.
the briefing strip tells you the final approach fix as well.
This is also like a Jepson special, right? Jepson is, the FAA doesn't tell you this GS 6000, but Jepson does. And if we go back to the Yankee, it'll tell us, at Buddy, if you're on the glide slope, you should be at X altitude. That's what it'll tell you. Common misconception that we just want to be clear about. This was actually literally the one we were just looking at. Look, see how at Buddy it says GS 2753? That's because I've intercepted the glide slope before Buddy. So my final approach fix was before Buddy where I intercepted that glide slope. So at Buddy, I should be at 2753. So I can confirm that I'm on that's another way to confirm I'm not on a false glide slope. Cool.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Go back.
Sergio.
I think we did this one at the sim yesterday. So if you're coming in, you pass Silex.
Yeah.
right? You're at 3,000.
Yeah,
And the question was, she asked me, she goes, when do I run the ILS? When do I start that glide slope? How far prior to Buddy? And I didn't have an answer.
once you're at 3,000. Well, you're tuned in, right? Once you tune in the localizer, you're also gonna receive the glide slope if there is
My
one.
diamond hits center.
Once it hits the center, it should come down from the ceiling,
Yeah.
right, from the top. You're
Then I
approaching it
start.
from below.
That's when I know I'm at that point.
Correct. Correct. And that's your final approach fix for the instrument approach, for the ILS. I mean. Yeah.
At Buddy.
Yeah.
The funnel looking thing is at outer marker. Is it-
Oh yeah, this like vase, the like hashed vase thing.
Yeah.
That's the outer.
And what are the two dash line under the Buddy means?
I think it's just separating out Buddy from the glide slope, but I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that means outer marker. Oh, you know what that means? It means outer marker. Because you know how the outer marker has dashes as its audio tone, and the middle marker has dot dash dot dash. I think it's probably indicating that's what you should hear on the Morse code. It's dashes. Yeah.
It's out of service.
Thanks, Jepson. I was thinking ahead. We've talked about minimums. Missed approach point. We just talked about this. Let's talk about something called a visual descent point. Erica, will you give this a read for us, please?
On a safe, stable, and visual descent to land from the minimum descent altitude. It is labeled as the block B. There are a couple different situations. One, if the pilot reaches the VDP at the MDA and sees the runway, they can continue to descend to land. Two, if the pilot reaches the VDP at the MDA and does not see the runway, then they continue to the MAP and execute the missed approach procedure. A, even if they see the runway after the VDP, the pilot still needs to continue to the MAP and execute the missed approach. B, this is because they'll no longer be able to make a stable descent to land.
So this is not in all of the localizer approaches, but some localizer approaches will have this. It's kind of like advisory, right? The FAA has figured out if you're going to satisfy 91-175 and make a stable descent to land, well, you basically need to start that descent like here at the visual descent point. If you don't see the runway and you can't start your descent there, you're going to have to do some crazy maneuvers, or you're going to have to descend more than 1,000 feet a minute. You're not going to make it. So that's what it's there for. If I don't have the runway in sight or the runway environment in sight and I can't start my descent, I don't start my missed until the missed approach point, but I'm planning to go missed, right? Like at that point, I'm like, all right, I've given up. Like there's no way. Even if I see the runway after that, I know that I can't make it down in a stabilized way. So I'm planning to go missed at that point. Thanks, FAA. Any questions on VDP? Localizer back course. Let's see. Will someone read this for us, please?
Did you say someone?
With some, yeah, just a volunteer. Sergio, will you read it for us, please?
The
Thanks.
localizer antenna, as seen in the previous slides, creates two signals to establish on and off course indications for pilot in flight. The localizer antenna also sends these two signals from the reverse side of the antenna going in the opposite direction. This establishes a flyable, non-precision localizer back course approach. When flying a back course approach, it's important for the pilot to still use the front course number published on the instrument approach.
It's kind of cool, right? The signal actually goes both ways. And in traditional equipment, you would actually have reverse sensing of your CDI when you're using the back course. Our G3X, and I'm pretty sure the G1000, every time I've flown the G1000, it corrects for that. It knows you're on the back course, so it'll still do proper, sensing. But if you had an old school, right, VOR, it would actually reverse sense, meaning you'd have to pull the needle instead of drive towards the needle for the back course. We have one, it's in John Wayne. John Wayne has a back course approach. It has to be published, so you can't make up your own back course because there needs to be like clearance and all the other stuff that the chart designers use. But it's kind of cool.
Could you briefly demonstrate how back course approach would work?
Yeah, looks like they actually are bringing up this one from Santa Maria. So why don't you pull up the Santa Maria Localizer DME back course, and our airport identifiers SMX. Anybody been to Santa Maria yet? I have not. It's on the list. This is the Localizer DME back course alpha. Before we even look at it, I see that it has alpha instead of a runway number. What does that tell me about the kinds of approaches available here?
Yes.
Not necessarily GPS,
It's gonna be so.
circling only, right? Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, right? Any letters at the beginning of the alphabet means that I only have circling options here. Cool.
We're taking the approach, right?
Yeah, so this is the Localizer back course. Do I have extra slides on this?
What does it mean if it's back?
It means that
Which is good.
we're using the other side of the localizer. So if we had older equipment, our needle would be reverse sensing. Switch to the iPad. So this is the localizer DME back course alpha into Santa Maria. This is the 11-2. I'm on the localizer for Santa Maria 108.9. Here's how we fly it, right? My initial approach fix is, what is the initial approach fix here? Wow, it's way over there at RZS, the Santa, what's the RZS? I just remember what the name of that VOR is. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's by Santa Barbara. San Marcos, I think? I could be wrong. The RZS VOR is the initial approach fix. We then follow that to Madu, and then we intercept the localizer back course. San Marcos, thank you. The localizer back course here, right around Cokes. And then we fly it just like a regular localizer. You can see that from Cokes, we descend, we're at 4,600. We descend down on a course of 300 down to 3,000. Camico is our final approach fix with the Maltese cross. We have another fix here. We need to cross Patter at or above 1720. And then our missed approach point is the half-mile DME from the localizer. Or, oh wow, there's no timer here. That's interesting. So I have to have DME. That's why it says localizer DME, because I need to have that in order to do this approach. Or my GPS distance is just fine for this. And that's my missed approach point. No VDP here. Notice that there's a difference in the minimums with circle to land, whether or not I have a local altimeter setting, or if I'm using the San Luis Obispo altimeter setting. Kind of neat, right? Yeah.
So why is this a back course? Because we're using,
Because with this localizer, if you look here, it's actually designed to bring people in on this runway.
so there's an approach. MLS or localizer approach that's for like runway, whatever.
Yeah, let's look it up. Looks like there's an ILS runway 12. There it is. An
Okay.
ILS runway 12.
So this is the back course.
Exactly. It's taking advantage of the fact that those signals go both ways, and they've actually designed a back course approach for us.
It's this shaded area.
Chris is asking, what's this little football shaped thing, or I don't know, eye shaped thing at Hildy? Anybody know? That's the outer marker. That's the outer marker. Actually, this is a good opportunity for me to show you how to find out, like, where's the legend for this, right? It's different than the FAA legends. If you go to documents, and this should be in your instrument folder if it's not already, you go to Jepson. There's this first document called Introduction to Jepson Nav Charts. See it there?
Yeah.
This has everything about Jepson, including the approach plates. So I actually have this bookmarked.
Oh, yeah, that.
Approach chart legend starts on page 68 of the PDF. And I recommend bookmarking this. I have two bookmarks, approach chart legend and also airport chart legend for the 10-9. This will show you everything on the 10-9 on the airport chart. And then the approach chart legend will show you everything. Let's see, everything here. So you can see that, interesting. It doesn't have that.
It's on page 36, 37.
Sweet. There we go. This in the profile view, the outer marker. And then here are the, oh, look, they're different sizes based on if it's outer, middle, or inner. Cool.
I don't think it will be super clear.
I don't either, but hopefully in context it will be. Yeah. So that's how you know.
And then if you look at the right below the.
Oh, that's the
page
one you're
37,
saying.
Yeah, you were right. It was the Morse code.
Oh, let's see. Where are you seeing that? Oh yeah, look, there it is. The Morse code. Cool. Nice. Nice. Good. It's fun when you're like, oh, like it makes sense. And that's Jepson for you, right? Like they're in our minds as a pilot. Like, just kind of neat.
Later, you're gonna be wondering why you circled that.
I am. You're like, why did I do that? Yeah. It'll be a nice reminder. Let's see. There we go. LDA is another kind of non-precision approach, localizer type directional aid. Very similar, except the LDA, the localizer, is not aligned with the runway center line. So we have a localizer, but it's not bringing us straight into the runway. It has its own minimums. Here's an example. John Wayne has one for 20 right, and it's a little bit off course from the actual runway. The localizer is not aligned with the runway. That's called a localizer type directional aid. And you fly it just like a regular localizer. You can see this one has both a VDP and a missed approach point. Straight in, you can also circle to land using this. Another one is like Eagle, Colorado, up in the mountains of Colorado, the ski town. They have a localizer type directional aid because if you go straight in, you'll hit a mountain. So they put it offset so you can fly down the valley, and then once you're, once you can see the runway, then you just boom, boom, land.
Oh, that would be cool approach.
Yeah, I really am excited. I hope one day I get to fly to that. I'm told you need special training. The approach plates are cool. We could look at those next week if you want.
So why is that last one is circled to land?
Because it's using a localizer to bring you close enough into runway 20 to consider it a straight in. And I think the Instrument Procedures Handbook will tell us exactly what the limit is, but I think it's less than 30 degrees. Oh, here it is. If the LDA course lines up with the runway center line within 30 degrees, then you can have straight in minimums. Yeah. Good. Are we ready to put the green needles to bed for a little bit? Let's talk about magenta needles. So these are all kind of messed up my chart here. We've been talking about precision, non-precision, all of this. Let me redraw this, right? So precision with a ground-based nav aid, ILS, non-precision. We have localizing. I'm going to put those in green because we're going to use green needles for those ground-based nav aids. But welcome to the world of GPS or area navigation, RNAV. Why is it RNAV and not ANAV? Someone knows. I'm not one of those people. But RNAV stands for area navigation. And that allows us to do approaches using our GPS. A little review from week 2. There's 2 kinds of standards for GPSs. One includes WAS corrections, and the other does not. Does our GPS have WAS?
Yes.
Yes. So we can actually use those corrections in order to fly approaches that are very much like an ILS, but using GPS. So let's talk about these. Let's pull up the RNAV Zulu for Camarillo. RNAV Zulu for runway 26, if you look down here, the minimums are all for a kind of approach called LPV. LPV stands for, let's see if that's on the next slide. In which case I'll just use the slides. Nope. Wow, we're gonna go straight. There's only one slide for all the GPS approaches. Okay, cool. So if we zoom in here, and if you have the Camarillo Zulu runway 26 open, you'll see that down here it says straight in landing runway 26 LPV. LPV stands for localizer performance with vertical guidance. I'm going to put a little star. It is technically non-precision, but with an LPV approach, which requires a WAS GPS, we get both lateral and vertical guidance using magenta diamonds, using GPS, using our WAS GPS. But it acts like a localizer. It actually acts like an ILS, localizer performance with vertical guidance. So the way we fly it is exactly the same as an ILS, including having a DA instead of an MDA. Yeah, Chris?
So if it's like an ILS,
Yeah.
ILS is precision. What makes it non-precision?
Because part of the requirement for a precision is what?
Or the ground base?
Has to be from a ground-based nav at the airport. Sometimes these are called approaches with vertical guidance, approach APV. And per the ACS, flying an LPV approach counts as a precision approach for your check ride because it's the same scale and it's flown down to a DA instead of an MDA. So for the this is in Appendix 3 of the ACS, right? Instead of an ILS, you can fly an LPV approach or an approach with vertical guidance down to the DA minimums, and that counts as your precision approach, even though legally, for alternate planning, which we'll talk about either tomorrow or Thursday, it doesn't count as a precision approach legally. But we fly it just like one. Versus over here, the RNAV Yankee runway 26, you'll notice that it has an approach called LNAV. So we have an LNAV approach, which only gives us lateral guidance. It does not give us vertical guidance. And it's still based on GPS. With me so far? Mm-hmm. There's also a third kind of GPS approach called LNAV VNAV, which uses GPS to calculate our lateral course, but uses a baro-aided altimeter to calculate our glide slope. It actually is also an approach with vertical guidance, just like an LPV, but you need to have a special altimeter that's baro-aided in order to do those approaches. We don't have that. However, on the flip side, I'm told by some of our colleagues who've gone into the airlines, surprisingly, not all the big jets have WAS, but instead they have LNAV VNAV, so they can still do the precision-like approach or the approach with vertical guidance down to an airport.
They don't have WAS?
Isn't that interesting? That's what I've been told. Like a lot of these SkyWest planes and what have you, even some of the bigger jets, they don't have WAS.
So they only rely on rain for the integrity then?
Yeah, yeah. And they're going to use, but they have the capability, they have this baro-aided altimeter, so they can still use GPS to fly a precision-like approach using that to LNAV VNAV minimums.
Oh, fancy altimeter.
Fancy, yeah.
So on the Sims,
Yeah.
when you put in the baro-aided minimums,
Uh-huh.
is that just, that's not to actually run it, that's just as a, like setting up an alarm?
I would never, I don't think any of the sims, I don't think any of the aircraft that the simulator is simulating have baro-aided altimeters either. So when you're flying an approach in the sim, just like in a sling, and you're flying an RNAV approach, you're basically only picking between these two. There's a third one we'll talk about in a second, but you can't really, I don't think there's equipment in those sims to fly an LNAV VNAV.
Because there's a, where you hit the timer,
Yeah,
right?
right.
If you go to the bottom.
Oh, and then you have to spin it to baro.
Is that just like an?
Oh, I understand the
is that just
confusion.
the-
It's asking what do you want your minimums based on? You want it based on your, I understand now. You have to slip it to baro. Also, if you tap your HSI and you're setting the minimums in the sling, same thing. It'll say baro. It means altimeter, but it's different than the baro-aided altimeter that you would need in order to do an LNAV VNAV.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I thought of that, but that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Is baro-aided altimeter just too old that Sling doesn't have it?
No, I think it's that WAS, we already have WAS, so we don't need it.
Oh,
It's like one more thing to break, you know?
Right.
We got WAS, so we don't need a baro-aided
If
altimeter.
it's not broken.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So these are flown, I'll put a start here too. These are flown like an ILS to a DA. Those are precision-like approaches. Even though legally they don't count as non-precision for alternate planning, we fly them like an ILS. The LNAV, we fly like a localizer. We only have lateral guidance. We fly that like a localizer down to an MDA. Okay, now we're going to talk about what's the difference between between how our needles are sensitive for an LNAV versus an LPV. Because unlike when we're on green needles and we're just like, tracking that localizer with the two signals in, the GPS, we have to decide, well, how much is full scale deflection? How much is this? And I'm going to pull up an image from our friend at Flight Insight, who, as I have told you, I'm obsessed with. Let me switch over here. Okay. Anybody have this cheat sheet yet? The IFR Check Ride at a Glance from Flight Insight? If you don't, maybe you have the one from Pilot Cafe. Is that the other one?
No.
Yep. But if you don't, I do recommend putting this in your instrument folder. It has like all this stuff. What is required to get my instrument rating? What is currency? Like all this jazz. It's pretty amazing. And if I scroll over, I'm gonna
Flight
get it.
Insight is more. It's very precise, or put it better, but Pilot Cafe has like a lot more.
It's like more deep, right? It's
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like I think even like a much longer guide,
Yeah, like
if I recall.
3 times
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. Look, it even has like the same stuff we had on the board earlier. Here's what I'm looking for. Okay, GPS course widths. When I have a localizer performance with my GPS, the localizer sensitivity, the sensitivity of my lateral guidance gets more and more sensitive the closer I get to the runway threshold, just like a localizer. That's why it says localizer performance. So it sort of is funneling us, not sort of, it is funneling us down towards that runway threshold the same way a localizer would. That's why you get lower minimums with an LPV approach than you do with an LNAV approach. LNAV stays at 0.3 of a nautical mile to each side of the center line the whole way to the runway. So on LNAV, it looks like just a big old rectangle. I can be at full deflection at the runway threshold. I'm 0.3 of a mile away. That's pretty far. Versus localizer performance, if I'm at full deflection at the runway threshold, I'm only 350 feet across from the center line, just like a localizer. Localizer performance with vertical guidance. And there's another kind of approach that I'll put in here, just called LP, which is like a localizer, but no vertical guidance. So we fly it, it's non-precision, right? It doesn't have the vertical, but the sensitivity of my course needle still works as if it was just a localizer.
So it's LNAV, but a little bit more precise.
Right. It's
Or LTD.
this is really like the localizer. LP is really like the localizer.
Yeah.
LPV is like an ILS. LNAV is almost like neither of them. LNAV, it's kind of its own beast. It's just that rectangle all the way down. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
That's why the minimums are higher.
there's only one precision then islet.
For us, if you look in the instrument flying handbook, which you should, you will find out that there are other types of approaches that give you lateral and vertical guidance from a nav aid, ground-based nav aid at the airport, like the GLS system. There's a GPS-based landing system, which uses sort of a ground-based, my understanding, and we should read the instrument procedure handbook to like brush up on this. There's only a few airports in the country that have it, like some kind of ground-based augmentation system for the GPS signal that allows planes to use that to fly down. So it's so cool. That counts as precision. There's a ground-based nav aid at the airport. There's a few other kinds of approaches that count as precision, which for a check ride you should know. I've never heard of people being super grilled on that. For a regular instrument, for a double I, yeah, be ready. But for this check ride, know that the ILS is the only one the sling can fly that counts as a precision approach. couple of precision-like approaches, right? An LPV is a precision-like approach with vertical guidance, but technically doesn't legally qualify. Yeah.
Two questions.
Yeah.
For, briefly, GLS. correct
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, but doesn't that let you land with autopilot? Is that too?
Probably.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not really familiar that much with the GLS, to be honest.
And,
Yeah.
and second question, what are the, if that counts as that's not service volume, what will be the ones we're looking at? Force width?
Yeah.
What are the force width with UR?
Whatever the radial is, right, that we're on. So with a VOR, the radials get closer together as you get closer to the station,
Yeah.
and then they get farther apart as you get farther.
Uh-huh.
So your needles get more sensitive as you get closer to the station, and then they get less sensitive as you get farther. But they're not calibrated like this
Okay.
to like a specific width at the runway threshold.
Okay.
So they are by definition a non-precision approach.
Okay.
We'll talk about them in just a second. I'll put it up here now.
But I'm assuming, most of the VOR approaches like Fuller's and VOR all
Yeah.
alpha, we're using Seal Beach,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But they're like, it's kind of close enough where we're just, yeah.
It's close enough, and the approach designers have designed the clearance and everything else with enough leeway
Right.
that that you're all right. Even as you get further from the station, your needle becomes less sensitive. Yeah. But this is almost guaranteed to come up. I would say it's guaranteed to come up on your approaches phase check. I'd say it's guaranteed to come up on your check ride. The difference between an LPV or an LP approach and an LNAV approach. It has to do with the sensitivity of your purple needle all the way to the runway. Any questions on that? Yeah.
One last question about
Sure.
the sensitivity and LPV.
Yeah.
I flew both ILS and LPV
Yeah.
to Torrance.
Yeah.
In the aircraft,
Yeah.
but LPV, I nailed it.
Yeah.
ILS, I messed it up. Is that a reason, or it was just like there's no difference, right?
You
There should be functionally no difference.
Okay,
So there was some other reason. Yep.
It was the moon's fault. It was the plane's fault.
Maybe there was like a solar flare that interfered with the GPS in the ILS signal. I don't know.
LPV, it seemed like it felt so easy. It was like the
Yeah.
glass slope didn't feel like it was moving
Yeah.
fast. The
Yeah.
localizer was like on the
Yeah.
ILS, it was everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think it was probably just
The
happenstance. Yeah.
Okay.
They should fly exactly the same way. Good.
Yep.
Should we talk about VOR approaches?
They're outdated.
Because they're always out of service? It's my complaint. Is CLB in service yet? Anybody know? Seen the NOTAM in a minute, but
I'll give my
I gave shade to the Ventura VOR yesterday. Sucker's always out. All right, VOR approach. These use VORs to get us close to the runway. If a runway, again, just like an LDA, localizer type directional aid, a VOR approach can have straight in minimums if the approach course is within 30 degrees of the runway center line. So you can see here, this is the VOR 30. Let me get this out of the way. This is the VOR or TACAN. That's for military planes. VOR 30 into Long Beach, and you can see that this gives us straight in landing minima or circle to land. So because this course is bringing us within 30 degrees of center line, we can get straight in minima for runway 30. Oh, we just talked about that. Good. All right, so let's pull up actually the VOR 30 into Long Beach, please. It's highly likely that you will fly this at some point if you haven't already.
If I don't see any nodes, then it's
There shouldn't be any. Yeah.
okay.
Which one again? The VOR 30 into Long Beach. Sometimes the navigate will be out and it won't show a NOTAM here. That happened to me at Catalina a few weeks ago. Yeah, The NOTAM system also needs to be severely overhauled. Just the whole thing. So this is the VOR 30 into Long Beach. This is page 13-1. We're all on the same page. I've picked up the weather at Long Beach. I'm talking to SoCal on 125.35. I'm ready to talk to Tower on 119.4. I have tuned in the Seal Beach VOR on 115.7. I've ID'd it, either using the Morse code or using the top middle box of my nav frequency box in the GTN 650. My final approach course is 275. My final approach fix is actually Seal Beach at or above 1500. Minimum descent altitude is 600 for a straight in, airport elevation 60, touchdown zone elevation 38. Cool, let's see how we're gonna fly this. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Okay, let's talk this approach through. You can see here that we have a hold at Seal Beach. We talked about this maybe a little bit last week when we were talking about holds. Some approaches have a hold in them instead of a procedure turn. So procedure turns allow us to reverse course to get pointed towards the direction of the final approach course without having to do any turns that are more than 90 degrees. So sometimes that's done with an actual procedure turn. It'll be like a little barbed, like little thing you fly out and you fly around. Or it'll be done with what's called a hold in lieu of procedure turn, where you just do a hold entry. You don't necessarily fly a lap in the hold. You just do either your parallel or teardrop entry to get yourself turned around. If I'm doing what would be basically a direct entry into this hold, I don't need to do the hold at all. I just go straight in. So you can see if I'm coming from mids, which is both an initial fix, intermediate fix, and an initial approach fix. See how underneath this it says no PT, no procedure turn. I'm not going to do a lap in the hold. I'm not going to do anything with the hold. Kind of makes sense if you look at it, right? Like I'm already pointed in the right direction. Just go. Just go. However, say I'm coming from Torrance over here. In order to first fly to Seal Beach and then do a big turn, that's more than 90 degrees. So I need to do something with this hold in lieu of procedure turn. So if I was going to enter this hold, what kind of entry would I make from Torrance? Probably parallel, definitely parallel, right? So I go to Seal Beach, I fly outbound for a minute and a half, do a big old parallel entry, get established. Whoops, why did that go away? Interesting. And go. That's just the entry. I drew it kind of big there to make it exaggerated, right? It would,
It
you know,
wouldn't be that big.
it wouldn't be like that. It would be like, actually inside more of the hold boundaries like this, right? Like that. Here's the thing about holds in lieu. If you want to actually fly a lap, you need to request that from ATC and be told that you can do it. They're gonna assume you're not doing a lap. They're gonna assume you're just doing the entry, just doing the procedure turn. If you want to actually fly a lap, you need to tell them. Other thing is your GPS is also going to assume you're not going to do a lap. If you're going to do a lap, you need to press on the default nav page the suspend button. It'll be right here next to OBS. It'll say susp, and you press that, and that'll suspend the approach, keep you in the hold until you unsuspend, and then it will sequence you properly after you pass Seal Beach. So for both the GPS and ATC, the procedure is you're just doing the entry. You're not actually doing any laps in the hold. If you need to do laps in the hold, you need to request it, be approved, and then suspend the approach on the GPS so that it knows you're staying in the hold. Cool. So you're here at Seal Beach. You've done your procedure turn or you've gone straight in, depending on where you are approaching from. And then at Seal Beach, I turn to a heading of 275 straight to Majku. And Majku, right, this is like, you can see here, it's close enough, it's within 30 degrees that I can do straight in landing for runway 30. That's kind of cool. So that's why I have the straight in minima MDA of 600 from there. So far, so good? Cool. Profile view, here's the VORTAC. You can see that I have to do the hold at or above 1500. Tells me my 1 minute is what that hold is. Here's my Maltese cross. This is a non-precision approach. That's my final approach fix. I do start my timer. And then I proceed on 270 all the way down to the runway. Here's a VDP at 3.2 DME from Seal Beach. So if I don't have the runway in sight by then, I'm planning to go missed, but I won't actually go missed until match crew. Missed approach, climbing left turn to 3000 on a heading of 200 to intercept the LAX radial 145 to patter and hold. And here it's drawn out for us really nice. Patter, by the way, is pretty far out there. Like on a check ride and stuff, you're not typically, I've never heard of anybody flying the full missed approach from Long Beach. Missed approach from Fullerton is great because the hold is over Seal Beach. That definitely, and you'll do that in your training if you haven't already. But for the Long Beach missed approach, that's pretty far to pattern. Let's look at one more. Let's pull up the Catalina VOR Bravo. You'll notice this is both a VOR DME or GPS. So you can actually fly this one on purple or green needles.
It's the one I died.
This is the one that what?
This is the one I died on.
That you died on? Yeah. I'm telling you, these approaches at Catalina, they look so tame and simple, and then they turn out, it's like it looks like it's a kitten, and then it turns out to be a tiger. There's a lot that goes on in these approaches.
It looks so simple from
It
the
looks so simple. It looks so simple.
talked about. This might be the hardest.
Yeah, I actually think the Alpha is even harder than the Bravo. But these are both, they look so simple. They look so simple, but they can trip you up. Oh yeah. Okay, good. In the sim, I was like, wait a second. So since it says VOR, DME, or GPS Bravo, what do we already know about what kind of approach this is? Circling only, right? Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. Like it's at the beginning of the alphabet. There's no runway mentioned. Circling only approach. Cool. Here's what it looks like. This one has a procedure turn. This is an example of a VOR approach with a procedure turn instead of a hold in lieu of procedure turn. So the way this works is I fly first to my initial approach fix, Wrigley, if I'm coming from, say, down here, right? If I'm coming from up here, straight in, I don't need to do the procedure turn. I can just proceed. But if I'm coming from, say, down from the south or anywhere from like, over here. Come on, Apple Pencil. There we go. All right. Fly to Wrigley, go outbound on a heading of 352 for a minute. Left turn 307 for a minute. Standard rate turn around to a heading of 127 until I intercept course 172 back to the VOR. That's the procedure turn. So if I'm doing this from the VOR, if I'm starting at the VOR, I have to fly outbound along the 352 radial. And then once I get to Wrigley, I start a timer for a minute. Common error in this one is starting the timer from the VOR. You don't start it from the VOR, you start it from Wrigley. Then I proceed inbound, and we can look at the profile view to take a look at the altitudes we have here. Whoops. So here's my procedure turn. I can start the procedure turn higher than 3,400, but I need to stay at 3,400 until I'm at least established inbound. So that means pointed inbound and within half scale deflection from my proper radial inbound, my 172 course inbound. After I'm established, I can descend to 2,300. Then Wrigley is my final approach fix. That's the Maltese cross. After that, I can descend to my minimums, which are 2220.
Just under.
Yeah. This is not authorized for category C or D aircraft, only for A and B. Yeah. What are my restrictions on circle to land?
That's too visible.
Not authorized southeast of runway 4 and 22. So if I pull up the Catalina 10-9, circling not authorized southeast. So just keep that in mind. This is another place where people have been getting tripped up. Oh, say you want to land runway 4, but you're doing the VOR Bravo. How do you circle? And people are like, oh, I just make, right traffic for runway 4. Not authorized. No circling authorized southeast of the airport. So you'd have to come in from here and then do some kind of left traffic, right, for removal. Interestingly, the Alpha does not have that restriction, but the Bravo does. Has to do, I think, with terrain and the mist procedure. But there've got to be reasons. Cool. So that's two kinds of sort of styles of VOR approach. One with a hold in lieu of procedure turn, and also where the course changes when you hit the VOR. One with an actual regular procedure turn. Let's look up one more. Let's bring up the Corona VOR approach. Corona is AJO, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You are, oh, right.
VOR alpha. So we already know this is a circling only approach because it's an alpha. This one's kind of cool. It has a hold in lieu of procedure turn, but the course is straight away, right? The VOR 30 into Long Beach had a change in course when you hit the VOR. The Corona VOR does not. It's you just keep on going on a 236. So that's a little easier. VOR alpha at Catalina, it has a change in course too. And why part of the reason it's so hard is because there's a change in course and you have to lose a lot of altitude in a very short amount of time. Why don't we just pull that one up too and take a quick peek? Catalina. This is a Catalina VOR alpha. Wow, what an easy approach. Look at what a cute little profile or a plan view we have. This is hiding many secrets, right? This is very similar to the Long Beach 30 in that there's a hold in lieu and you have to change course when you hit the VOR, right? You're going from the 015 course to the 352 course. So there's a change, but the real challenge is down here in the profile view. So at the VOR, I need to be at 3,100. At the VOR, I turn to the left to a course of 352, follow the 352 radial out. So turn time, start my timer. That's the other killer. Turn to 352. I've already set my heading bug there. Time, twist. Now I'm twisting my CDI to 352. Throttle. I got to lose a bunch of altitude in only 1.6 miles. I'm at 3,100. I got to get down to 2,580 in only 1.6 miles without exceeding 1,000 feet per minute. Sometimes people call this the dive and drive, right? So this is a throttle idle moment. I'm going to make sure that I'm not going more than 1,000 feet a minute, but I need to expeditiously get down to my minimums if I have any hope of being at my minimums by the missed approach point. And then when I hit Majus, 1.6 DME from the VOR, I have to go missed. Notice there's no circle to land restrictions on this approach. So this one you can circle however you want. Oops, where's my Catalina? Right, so on the alpha, you can circle northwest, southeast, anything you want, as long as you stay within that 1.3 nautical mile protected area from each side of the runway.
And that last alpha, you can land in either one of these
Uh-huh.
based on winds.
Yeah, these are both circle to land. So no matter what runway, it would be, yeah, based on winds, based on, what pattern's already in use. Yeah, that's right. That's right. VOR approaches. Always non-precision. We're never having vertical guidance. VOR approach. These are beautiful slides that are all about the runway markings that you can see as part of 91-175. We talked about this. Part 91, you can do even if the ATIS says that the visibility is below the prescribed. However, you must have the prescribed flight visibility in order to do the approach. Part 121 and 135 would not even start the approach with some exceptions. Let's talk about the mist. They're usually in two different places. We talked about this yesterday. We have a quickie little get you started visual mist approach down here in green. You have the mist approach in like a dotted line here in the plan view, and then you have it actually written out up in the briefing section. Ogden again. We cannot get away from the Ogden VOR.
Where's that one?
Utah. I mean, it looks like Great Salt Lake, doesn't it? That's probably Salt Lake City area.
How long would it take to take Sling from here to Utah?
No. I mean, people are going to Sun and or what do you call it?
Oscar.
Oshkosh. That's farther than
Is that
Salt
what?
Lake City.
Didn't they go, there was a YouTube video where they went to some motorcycle race in Utah?
Probably. It's a lot of YouTube videos.
Zach said he went to Florida.
Yeah, they went to Sun and Fun in a sling. That took them 2 or 3 days. Probably 3 days to get to Florida. You could probably, you know what, Luke, who was in my class, he actually went to Utah and back in 1 day in a sling. So I think you could get to, I think you could it would be a long day.
It says 5 hours.
Says 5 hours. Okay, so, you know, a couple fuel stops and you're there.
In 1 day, 5 hours. That means you broke protocol. You
What?
Aren't you not supposed to fly more than 8 hours?
I can't do dual given. I can't do flight training more than 8 hours. But I can fly as much as I'm safe will allow. Yeah. Yeah. But I can't train you longer than 8 hours. That's right. In any 20 consecutive 24-hour period.
Is there like a
61, 189, I think is the limit.
Is there like a loophole? Like if me and you were to go up and then pass 8 hours, or you know,
I don't know. If after our second fuel stop, I'm like, you're the PIC, I'm just a passenger, and I'm not giving you dual given anymore. It's a loophole. But then I really am just a passenger, right? And you are really just the PIC. If something were to happen, the FAA would probably not smile upon that decision, but you could.
Could you say that? Yes.
No,
because,
somebody has to be PIC.
yeah, because
somebody has to
our
be
aircraft only requires 1 person.
Exactly. Somebody's got to be in charge.
You're still doing dumb things.
What's interesting is like if 2 C5s are flying with each other, then you could trade off who's doing the training and who's getting trained. That you could trade off. There are a few loopholes. Bottom line is you do need to follow regs, but also be safe. So I'm safe always still applies. Wow, I kind of am impressed that we got through all that today.
Oh, tomorrow we're gonna be talking.
No, we've already talked about all this. Talked about all of this. What's
Some alternate.
yeah, so what I think is happening next, well, we've already talked about all of this. It's from the FAA stuff. This is all FAA. I think what we're gonna do tomorrow is go into, we're gonna go into cross-country planning. Tomorrow will be IFR cross-country planning, including alternates and regs and routes. This is where it's all, the middle to end of week 4 is kind of where it all comes together, right? Departure procedures, the en route chart, approaches. We're gonna finally do some real scenarios with 91-185. We're gonna have a good time with the cross-country planning, and also you'll have to do a cross-country plan for your final phase check, and of course for your check ride. So, and for every cross-country IFR flight we fly, it's gonna be a good time. So, thanks everybody. Appreciate you. That was pretty good day. So that's why I was standing the whole time. Sorry that was I felt a little like talking too much. But thanks for coming and for being so such good sports. When you're 41 and you tweak something in the gym, that's what happens. We'll also be doing a lot more mindful approaches. Thanks for joining, Sophie.
I think
But thank you.